Brains. The small monkey carefully completed the last piece of the 100-piece puzzle. When all the pieces of the puzzle were put together, they made a copy of sunflowers, a picture by the famous painter Van Gogh. "Well done, Max," said a young woman in a white coat. "It only took you 20 minutes this time. That's much better than the last time you tried it. Have a bite of lovely banana." The woman reached for the fruit from a bowl close by and gave it to the monkey. Max ate it happily. The woman's name was Gina Capaldi, and she was 26 years old. She was studying for a PhD at a university in Rome. She was hoping to become a doctor of science. Her ideas had already caused much excitement. Now her work was almost finished. Great things were expected of her. As Gina prepared the monkey's next drug, Max played with his Rubik cube. The Rubik cube was one of Max's favorite puzzles. He enjoyed turning around the sides of the cube in his hands so that each of the 6 sides was a different color. Gina looked over at him and was pleased. He was getting better every day. Max completed the Rubik cube in 5 minutes. Mr. Dmitri sat behind a big desk in a large office in a huge building in New York. On the front of his desk was a sign in gold letters which read, "Mr. Theodore Dmitri." On his door there was a much bigger sign which read, "President of the Center for Science and Business Development, CSBD." Mr. Dmitri was middle-aged and wore a large dark grey suit. He smoked a thick, expensive cigar. The smoke from his cigar filled the room. Today, he was going to see his most promising new scientists. They were all studying for PhDs so that they could become doctors of science. They had to give him their new ideas if they wanted money from the CSBD. Mr. Dmitri did this every year. If he liked their work, CSBD would give them lots of money to develop it. That was the way to make money in the future. And Mr. Dmitri was good at making money. But if he didn't like the work of these scientists, or if he didn't like them, he didn't have to give them a cent. After all, Mr. Dmitri thought, business is business. Miss Epstein, his secretary, came into his office.
"Miss Capaldi to see you, Mr. Dmitri, sir," she said.
"Send her in, Miss Epstein,"
said Mr. Dmitri, in a voice which was cold and businesslike. Gina Capaldi stood in her best suit and shoes in front of the big desk. She wanted to look her best before Mr. Dmitri. In her bag was all the information needed about her work. She felt ready.
"Do sit down, Miss Capaldi. I've heard so many good things about you,"
said Mr. Dmitri, in a voice that now sounded friendly and welcoming. "Thank you, Mr. Dmitri," said Gina. She sat down in front of the big desk. Then Miss Epstein seemed to appear out of nowhere with coffee and biscuits. She put them on the desk and was gone again.
"Allow me,"
said Mr. Dmitri, as he put his cigar down for a moment and poured the coffee. Gina took her coffee and left the biscuits. She didn't feel like eating. She was nervous. Mr. Dmitri smiled at her with teeth that were large and white. Perfect teeth. His cigar found its way back to his mouth. The smoke rose up.
Tell me, Gina. May I call you Gina?
He asked. Of course, Mr. Dmitri, she answered. Mr. Dmitri continued.
Tell me about your latest work. I've heard very interesting things about it, but I would like you to explain it clearly to a simple man such as myself.
Gina knew that Theodore Dmitri was far from being simple. You don't get to be the head of CSBD, the biggest organization of its kind, if you aren't very clever. She knew his decision could change her life. Gina began. I've discovered a drug which raises intelligence.
Hold on, Gina,
said Mr. Dmitri.
You mean to say you found a way of making people smarter?
Yes, Gina answered. And without any harmful side effects, as far as I can tell.
As far as you can tell?
Mr. Dmitri said, his eyebrows raised. I mean, said Gina, the work has not been used on people. I've only worked on animals, especially Max.
Max?
Asked Mr. Dmitri. Sorry, Max is a monkey, Gina explained.
A monkey,
said Mr. Dmitri, but his voice sounded less friendly than it had before. Gina knew she had to persuade him somehow. Max has done really well. It's quite amazing. He now has the intelligence of an 8-year-old human child. He can do many things.
You want money for a performing monkey?
Said Mr. Dmitri. He sounded a little annoyed.
I can go to any cheap show to see smart monkeys doing tricks, and I don't have to pay a lot of money for it either.
Mr. Dmitri, Gina said, as she reached for her bag, I have a video of Max. I think you should see it before you make any decisions.
Oh, you do?
His voice was lower. Not a good sign. Yes, said Gina. If you would allow me, I'm sure you'll be as excited as I am once you've seen it. Gina did not want to give up without a fight. Her future depended on Mr. Dmitri's decision.
Let's see what you've got,
he said in his low voice. The video showed Max 3 years earlier, before Gina had begun to work on him, when he was still a normal monkey. Then, 3 months after her work had begun, Max was seen drawing simple pictures with a pencil. After a year, he was spelling out simple words. After 2 years, he could add and take away simple numbers. After 3 years, he could read, write, and do basic mathematics. He also understood everything Gina said to him. Max had come to see Gina as his mother, and he loved her. The video finished with Max putting his arms around Gina while Gina laughed.
That's one smart monkey. Can you make him any smarter?
Mr. Dmitri asked. Gina knew he was interested. She was pleased. Max can be as intelligent as we want to make him, Mr. Dmitri, she said, trying not to show her pleasure in what she had achieved.
Yes,
he said.
but could that monkey be made to be as smart as a man?
Or a woman, thought Gina. As I said, Mr. Dmitri, said Gina, we can make him as intelligent as we want to.
You mean
Asked Mr. Dmitri.
that monkey could get to be smarter than I am?
I suppose it is possible. There's no reason why not, as far as I can tell. Although, of course, Max is a long way from that just now, Gina said.
But you're working on it, right?
Mr. Dmitri asked. Well, yes. Gina was less confident now.
And what if you worked on a human being? Could you make them smarter?
He asked. Gina answered, I think so, Mr. Dmitri. Mr. Dmitri narrowed his eyes.
You only think so?
Well, said Gina, the brains of a monkey and a man are built in much the same way, so I'm almost certain.
Almost certain.
Mr. Dmitri looked out of the window, down at the streets of the busy city far below them. His cigar smoke rose lazily to the ceiling. Gina's hopes of money and success, and her PhD, depended largely on the decision Mr. Dmitri would make.
Tell me, Miss Capaldi,
said Mr. Dmitri. Gina noticed he had stopped using her first name. This looked bad.
Have you ever taken this stuff yourself to increase your own intelligence?
With that, he turned to look out of the window again. Of course not, Mr. Dmitri, Gina said to the back of his head. But if you think I should...
No!
Mr. Dmitri had turned suddenly from the window as he said this. The speed of his action surprised her, because he was such a large man. His eyes were wide and looked angry. Gina was scared.
Miss Capaldi,
Mr. Dmitri said, lowering his voice.
Your work has been very good. In fact, it has been excellent, and you have my congratulations. Unfortunately, I must ask you to stop what you are doing at once.
Gina's mouth suddenly felt very dry, and she felt the hairs on her head rise up. But, Mr. Dmitri, she said, I've done so much. All my work, my PhD.
Who is going to believe you if they wonder for one moment if you took some of this stuff yourself?
Mr. Dmitri's voice softened.
They would say that anybody could get a PhD with your wonder drug to help them, and they'd be right.
But I wouldn't dream of doing such a thing, said Gina. She tried not to show the disappointment she felt.
Wouldn't you?
Said Mr. Dmitri.
There are many people that would take this stuff, and many that would think that you had too.
Gina looked alarmed, but said nothing.
Yes,
he continued.
It's a sad fact, but a true one. Many people would think that you had taken your own drug to make yourself smarter. They would see you as being no different to those athletes who take stuff they're not supposed to take. It might make them do better, But it's not honest, is it, Miss Capaldi? And it's no different for CSBD. We do not want people to think that we are anything other than a completely honest organization. If they ever thought we had anything to do with such behavior, they would never trust us again.
But I promise you, my work has all been done honestly, said Gina. I never took anything.
But,
said Mr. Dmitri, as he looked straight at Gina's eyes,
you would if I asked you to, wouldn't you?
Gina knew it was true, so she said nothing and looked at the floor. Mr. Dmitri turned his great weight towards her and put his hand on her shoulder.
I understand how much you want to succeed, Miss Capaldi. Don't worry. I'm going to talk to the people at your university. I think you should have a PhD for the work you've done so far.
Gina raised her eyes.
Yes, Miss Capaldi, I believe in your honesty, and believe you are a brilliant young scientist. I would very much like you to continue to work for us.
Gina shut her eyes. She was too happy to speak.
But in a different area,
Mr. Dmitri added. Gina opened her eyes. She could hardly believe what she had heard. But what about my work? She asked.
You may carry on if you wish,
said Mr. Dmitri.
But you will have no money from us if you do. And I think I can say that nobody else will help you if I have anything to say about it. And I will.
Gina felt bad about losing her work, but she had been offered a job and her PhD.
If you leave all your work with us, Miss Capaldi, we'll make sure that it is properly taken care of. After all, you have made a discovery which could change the world someday, and you can be sure that we will recognize you as the person behind it all when the time comes. But it could take a long time. But right now, we would like to use your clever brain to the full in doing important work for us. And of course, you will be safe in the knowledge that you have the CSBD behind you. You will never be short of money again. So, why not join us, Gina? What do you say?
Gina felt surprisingly good about the offer. And I'll get recognition for my work? Gina asked.
Definitely,
said Mr. Dmitri. Mr. Dmitri, I accept! There were smiles and goodbyes, and soon after, a happy Gina Capaldi left the room. Mr. Dmitri sat down, lit another cigar, and watched the smoke rise up to the ceiling before it finally disappeared. He knew that business was not good when people asked too many questions. If people were made to be too smart, they would do just that. And once they didn't get the answers they wanted, they might not buy things. And if they didn't buy things, there would be no money to be made. No one would like that. No one at all. Miss Capaldi's work would be put away somewhere nice and safe, somewhere secret along with all the other dangerous ideas, like the car that ran on water, or the shoes that never wore out, or the battery that never stopped. But he was glad to have Miss Capaldi. She was bright. He ought to give her something to do, something that would make a lot of money. He picked up his telephone.
Miss Epstein, see that Miss Capaldi is sent to the Biological Science Center. I want her to be a part of that three-legged chicken plan. She can do it if anybody can. She's one smart lady. Oh, and Miss Epstein.
Yes, Mr. Dimitri,
said Miss Epstein.
I want you to see that a dangerous animal from one of our centers is killed. It's a monkey. His name is Max.
Progress Report 1, March 5th, 1965. Dr. Strauss says I should write down what I think and everything that happens to me from now on. I don't know why, but he says it's important, so they will see if they will use me. I hope they use me. Miss Kenyon says maybe they can make me smart. I want to be smart. My name is Charlie Gordon. I am 37 years old, and 2 weeks ago was my birthday. I have nothing more to write now, so I will close for today. Progress Report 2, March 6th. I had a test today. I think I failed it, and I think that maybe now they won't use me. What happened is a nice young man was in the room, and he had some white cards with ink spilled all over them. He said, "Charlie, what do you see on this card?" I was very scared, even though I had my rabbit's foot in my pocket, because when I was a kid I always failed tests in school, and I spilled ink too. I told him I saw a ink blot. He said yes, and it made me feel good. I thought that was all, but when I got up to go, he stopped me. He said, "Now sit down, Charlie. We are not through yet." Then I don't remember so good, but he wanted me to say what was in the ink. I didn't see nothing in the ink, but he said there was pictures there. Other people saw some pictures. I couldn't see any pictures. I really tried to see. I held the card close up and then far away. Then I said if I had my glasses I could see better. I usually only wear my glasses in the movies or TV, but I said they are in the closet in the hall. I got them. Then I said, "Let me see that card again. I bet I'll find it now." I tried hard, but I still couldn't find the pictures. I only saw the ink. I told him maybe I need new glasses. He wrote something down on a paper, and I got scared of failing the test. I told him it was a very nice ink blot with little points all around the edges. He looked very sad, so that wasn't it. I said, "Please let me try again. I'll get it in a few minutes because I'm not so fast sometimes. I'm a slow reader, too, in Miss Kenyon's class for slow adults, but I'm trying very hard." He gave me a chance with another card that had 2 kinds of ink spilled on it, red and blue. He was very nice and talked slow like Miss Kenyon does, and he explained it to me that it was a raw shock. He said people see things in the ink. I said, "Show me where." He said, "Think." I told him I think a ink blot, but that wasn't right either. He said, "What does it remind you? Pretend something." I closed my eyes for a long time to pretend. I told him I pretend a fountain pen with ink leaking all over a tablecloth. Then he got up and went out. I don't think I passed the raw shock test. Progress Report 3, March 7th. Dr. Strauss and Dr. Niemer say it don't matter about the ink blots. I told them I didn't spill the ink on the cards and I couldn't see anything in the ink. They said that maybe they will still use me. I said Miss Kinnian never gave me tests like that one, only spelling and reading. They said Miss Kinnian told that I was her bestest pupil in the adult night school because I tried the hardest and I really wanted to learn. They said, "How come you went to the adult night school all by yourself, Charlie? How did you find it?" I said I asked people, and somebody told me where I should go to learn to read and spell good. They said, "Why did you want to?" I told them because all my life I wanted to be smart and not dumb. But it's very hard to be smart. They said, "You know it will probably be temporary." I said, "Yes. Miss Kinnian told me. I don't care if it hurts." Later, I had more crazy tests today. The nice lady who gave it me told me the name, and I asked her, "How do you spell it so I can write it in my progress report?" Thematic apperception test. I don't know the first two words, but I know what test means. You got to pass it or you get bad marks. This test looked easy because I could see the pictures. Only this time she didn't want me to tell her the pictures. That mixed me up. I said the man yesterday said I should tell him what I saw in the ink. She said that don't make no difference. She said make up stories about the people in the pictures. I told her, "How can you tell stories about people you never met?" I said, "Why should I make up lies? I never tell lies anymore because I always get caught." She told me this test and the other one, the raw shock, was for getting personality. I laughed so hard. I said, "How can you get that thing from ink blots and photos?" She got sore and put her pictures away. I don't care. It was silly. I guess I failed that test, too. Later, some men in white coats took me to a different part of the hospital and gave me a game to play. It was like a race with a white mouse. They called the mouse Algernon. Algernon was in a box with a lot of twists and turns, like all kinds of walls, and they gave me a pencil and a paper with lines and lots of boxes. On one side it said start, and on the other end it said finish. They said it was amazed, and that Algernon and me had the same amazed to do. I didn't see how we could have the same amazed if Algernon had a box and I had a paper, but I didn't say nothing. Anyway, there wasn't time because the race started. One of the men had a watch he was trying to hide so I wouldn't see it, so I tried not to look, and that made me nervous. Anyway, that test made me feel worser than all the others because they did it over 10 times with different amazeds, and Algernon won every time. I didn't know that mice were so smart. Maybe that's because Algernon is a white mouse. Maybe white mice are smarter than other mice. Progress Report 4, March 8th. They're going to use me. I'm so excited I can hardly write. Dr. Niemer and Dr. Strauss had an argument about it first. Dr. Niemer was in the office when Dr. Strauss brought me in. Dr. Niemer was worried about using me, but Dr. Strauss told him Miss Kinnian recommended me the best from all the people who she was teaching. I like Miss Kinnian because she's a very smart teacher. And she said, "Charlie, you're going to have a second chance. If you volunteer for this experiment, you might get smart. They don't know if it will be permanent, but there's a chance." That's why I said okay, even when I was scared, because she said it was an operation. She said, "Don't be scared, Charlie. You've done so much with so little. I think you deserve it most of all." So I got scared when Dr. Niemer and Dr. Strauss argued about it. Dr. Strauss said I had something that was very good. He said I had a good motivation. I never even knew I had that. I felt proud when he said that not everybody with an IQ of 68 had that thing. I don't know what it is or where I got it, but he said Algernon had it too. Algernon's motivation is the cheese they put in his box. But it can't be that because I didn't eat any cheese this week. Then he told Dr. Niemer something I didn't understand, so while they were talking, I wrote down some of the words. He said, "Dr. Niemer, I know Charlie is not what you had in mind as the first of your new breed of intellect," couldn't get the word, Superman. "But most people of his low ment are host and uncoop. They are usually dull, apath, and hard to reach. He has a good nature. He's interested and eager to please." Dr. Niemer said, "Remember, he will be the first human being ever to have his intelligence tripled by surgical means." Dr. Strauss said, "Exactly. Look at how well he's learned to read and write for his low mental age. It's as great an achieve as you and I learning Einstein's theory of relativity without help. That shows the intense motivation. It's compare it, tremend, achieve. I say we use Charlie." I didn't get all the words, and they were talking too fast, but it sounded like Dr. Strauss was on my side, and like the other one wasn't. Then Dr. Niemer nodded. He said, "All right, maybe you're right. We will use Charlie." When he said that, I got so excited I jumped up and shook his hand for being so good to me. I told him, "Thank you, Doc. You won't be sorry for giving me a second chance." And I mean it like I told him. After the operation, I'm going to try to be smart. I'm going to try awful hard. Progress Report 5, March 10th. I'm scared. Lots of people who work here and the nurses and the people who gave me the tests came to bring me candy and wish me luck. I hope I have luck. I got my rabbit's foot and my lucky penny and my horseshoe. Only a black cat crossed me when I was coming to the hospital. Dr. Strauss says, "Don't be superstitious, Charlie. This is science." Anyway, I'm keeping my rabbit's foot with me. I asked Dr. Strauss if I'll beat Algernon in the race after the operation, and he said maybe. If the operation works, I'll show that mouse I can be as smart as he is, maybe smarter. Then I'll be able to read better and spell the words good and know lots of things and be like other people. I want to be smart like other people. If it works permanent, they will make everybody smart all over the world. They didn't give me anything to eat this morning. I don't know what that eating has to do with getting smart. I'm very hungry, and Dr. Niemer took away my box of candy. That Dr. Niemer is a grouch. Dr. Strauss says I can have it back after the operation. You can't eat before a operation. Progress Report 6, March 15th. The operation didn't hurt. He did it while I was sleeping. They took off the bandages from my eyes and my head today so I can make a progress report. Dr. Niemer, who looked at some of my other ones, says I spell progress wrong, and he told me how to spell it, and report, too. I got to try and remember that. I have a very bad memory for spelling. Dr. Strauss says it's okay to tell about all the things that happened to me, but he says I should tell more about what I feel and what I think. When I told him I don't know how to think, he said try. All the time when the bandages were on my eyes, I tried to think. Nothing happened. I don't know what to think about. Maybe if I ask him, he will tell me how I can think now that I'm supposed to get smart. What do smart people think about? Fancy things, I suppose. I wish I knew some fancy things already. Progress Report 7, March 19th. Nothing is happening. I had lots of tests and different kinds of races with Algernon. I hate that mouse. He always beats me. Dr. Strauss said I got to play those games, and he said sometime I got to take those tests over again. Those ink blots are stupid, and those pictures are stupid, too. I like to draw a picture of a man and a woman, but I won't make up lies about people. I got a headache from trying to think so much. I thought Dr. Strauss was my friend, but he don't help me. He don't tell me what to think or when I'll get smart. Miss Kinnian didn't come to see me. I think writing these progress reports are stupid, too. Progress Report 8, March 23rd. I'm going back to work at the factory. They said it was better I should go back to work, but I can't tell anyone what the operation was for, and I have to come to the hospital for an hour every night after work. They are going to pay me money every month for learning to be smart. I'm glad I'm going back to work because I miss my job and all my friends and all the fun we have there. Dr. Strauss says I should keep writing things down, but I don't have to do it every day, just when I think of something or something special happens. He says, don't get discouraged because it takes time and it happens slow. He says it took a long time with Algernon before he got 3 times smarter than he was before. That's why Algernon beats me all the time, because he had that operation too. That makes me feel better. I could probably do that amazed faster than a regular mouse. Maybe someday I'll beat Algernon. Boy, that would be something. So far, Algernon looks like he might be smart permanent. March 25th. I don't have to write progress report on top anymore, just when I hand it in once a week for Dr. Niemer to read. I just have to put the date on. That saves time. We had a lot of fun at the factory today. Joe Carp said, "Hey, look where Charlie had his operation. What did they do, Charlie? Put some brains in?" I was going to tell him, but I remembered Dr. Strauss said no. Then Frank Riley said, "What did you do, Charlie? Forget your key and open your door the hard way?" That made me laugh. They're really my friends, and they like me. Sometimes somebody will say, "Hey, look at Joe or Frank or George. He really pulled a Charlie Gordon." I don't know why they say that, but they always laugh. This morning, Amos Borg, who is the foreman at Donegan's, used my name when he shouted at Ernie, the office boy. Ernie lost a package. He said, "Ernie, what are you, trying to be a Charlie Gordon?" I don't understand why he said that. I never lost any packages. March 28th. Dr. Strauss came to my room tonight to see why I didn't come in like I was supposed to. I told him I don't like to race with Algernon anymore. He said, "I don't have to for a while, but I should come in." He had a present for me, only it wasn't a present, but just for lend. I thought it was a little television, but it wasn't. He said, "I got to turn it on when I go to sleep." I said, "You're kidding. Why should I turn it on when I'm going to sleep?" Who ever heard of a thing like that? But he said, if I want to get smart, I got to do what he says. I told him I didn't think I was going to get smart, and he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Charlie, you don't know it yet, but you're getting smarter all the time. You won't notice for a while." I think he was just being nice to make me feel good, because I don't look any smarter. Oh, yes, I almost forgot. I asked him when I can go back to the class at Miss Kinnian's school. He said I won't go there. He said that soon Miss Kinnian will come to the hospital to start and teach me special. I was mad at her for not coming to see me when I got the operation, but I like her, so maybe we will be friends again. March 29th. That crazy TV kept me up all night. How can I sleep with something yelling crazy things all night in my ears? And the nutty pictures. Wow, I don't know what it says when I'm up, so how am I going to know when I'm sleeping? Dr. Strauss says it's okay. He says my brains are learning when I sleep, and that will help me when Miss Kinnian starts my lessons in the hospital. Only I found out it isn't a hospital, it's a laboratory. I think it's all crazy. If you can get smart when you're sleeping, why do people go to school? That thing I don't think will work. I used to watch The Late Show and The Late Late Show on TV all the time, and it never made me smart. Maybe you have to sleep while you watch it. Progress Report 9, April 3rd. Dr. Strauss showed me how to keep the TV turned low, so now I can sleep. I don't hear a thing, and I still don't understand what it says. A few times I play it over in the morning to find out what I learned when I was sleeping, and I don't think so. Miss Kinnian says maybe it's another language or something, but most times it sounds American. It talks so fast, faster than even Miss Gold, who was my teacher in 6th grade, and I remember she talked so fast I couldn't understand her. I told Dr. Strauss, what good is it to get smart in my sleep? I want to be smart when I'm awake. He says it's the same thing, and I have two minds. There's the subconscious and the conscious. That's how you spell it. And one don't tell the other one what it's doing. They don't even talk to each other. That's why I dream. And boy, have I been having crazy dreams. Wow. Ever since that night TV, the late show. I forgot to ask him if it was only me or if everybody had those two minds. I just looked up the word in the dictionary Dr. Strauss gave me. The word is subconscious. Adj. Of the nature of mental operations yet not present in consciousness, as subconscious conflict of desires. There's more, but I still don't know what it means. This isn't a very good dictionary for dumb people like me. Anyway, the headache is from the party. My friends from the factory, Joe Carp and Frank Riley, invited me to go with them to Muggsy's saloon for some drinks. I don't like to drink, but they said we will have lots of fun. I had a good time. Joe Carp said I should show the girls how I mop out the toilet in the factory, and he got me a mop. I showed them, and everyone laughed when I told that Mr. Donegan said I was the best janitor he ever had because I like my job and do it good and never come late or miss a day, except for my operation. I said Miss Kinnian always said, "Charlie, be proud of your job because you do it good." Everybody laughed, and we had a good time, and they gave me lots of drinks. And Joe said, "Charlie is a card when he's potted." I don't know what that means, but everybody likes me, and we have fun. I can't wait to be smart like my best friends, Joe Carp and Frank Riley. I don't remember how the party was over, but I think I went out to buy a newspaper and coffee for Joe and Frank, and when I came back, there was no one there. I looked for them all over till late. Then I don't remember so good, but I think I got sleepy or sick. A nice cop brought me back home. That's what my landlady, Mrs. Flynn, says. But I got a headache and a big lump on my head and black and blue all over. I think maybe I fell. Anyway, I got a bad headache and I'm sick and hurt all over. I don't think I'll drink anymore. April 6th. I beat Algernon. I didn't even know I beat him until Bert the tester told me. Then the second time I lost because I got so excited I fell off the chair before I finished. But after that, I beat him 8 more times. I must be getting smart to beat a smart mouse like Algernon. But I don't feel smarter. I wanted to race Algernon some more, but Bert said, "That's enough for one day." They let me hold him for a minute. He's not so bad. He's soft like a ball of cotton. He blinks, and when he opens his eyes, they're black and pink on the edges. I said, "Can I feed him?" because I felt bad to beat him, and I wanted to be nice and make friends. Bert said, "No, Algernon is a very special mouse, with an operation like mine, and he was the first of all the animals to stay smart so long. He told me Algernon is so smart that every day he has to solve a test to get his food. It's a thing like a lock on a door that changes every time Algernon goes in to eat. So he has to learn something new to get his food. That made me sad because if he couldn't learn, he would be hungry. I don't think it's right to make you pass a test to eat. How would Dr. Niemer like it to have to pass a test every time he wants to eat? I think I'll be friends with Algernon. April 9th. Tonight, after work, Miss Kinnian was at the laboratory. She looked like she was glad to see me, but scared. I told her, "Don't worry, Miss Kinnian, I'm not smart yet," and she laughed. She said, "I have confidence in you, Charlie, the way you struggled so hard to read and write better than all the others. At worst, you will have it for a little while, and you're doing something for science." We are reading a very hard book. I never read such a hard book before. It's called Robinson Crusoe, about a man who gets marooned on a desert island. He's smart and figures out all kinds of things so he can have a house and food, and he's a good swimmer. Only I feel sorry because he's all alone, has no friends. But I think there must be somebody else on the island, because there's a picture with his funny umbrella looking at footprints. I hope he gets a friend and not be lonely. April 10th. Miss Kinnian teaches me to spell better. She says, look at a word and close your eyes and say it over and over until you remember. I have lots of trouble with through, that you say through, and enough and tough that you don't say enu and two. You got to say enough and tough. That's how I used to write it before I started to get smart. I'm confused, but Miss Kinnian says there's no reason in spelling. April 14th. Finished Robinson Crusoe. I want to find out more about what happens to him, but Miss Kinnian says that's all there is. Why? April 15th. Miss Kinnian says I'm learning fast. She read some of the progress reports, and she looked at me kind of funny. She says I'm a fine person, and I'll show them all. I asked her why. She said, never mind, but I shouldn't feel bad if I find out that everybody isn't nice like I think. She said, for a person who God gave so little to, you done more than a lot of people with brains they never even used. I said all my friends are smart people, but they're good. They like me, and they never did anything that wasn't nice. Then she got something in her eye, and she had to run out to the ladies' room. April 16th. Today I learned the comma. This is a comma. A period with a tail. Miss Kinnian says it's important because it makes writing better, she said. Somebody could lose a lot of money if a comma isn't in the right place. I don't have any money, and I don't see how a comma keeps you from losing it. But she says everybody uses commas, so I'll use them too. April 17th. I used the comma wrong. It's punctuation. Miss Kinnian told me to look up long words in the dictionary to learn to spell them. I said, what's the difference if you can read it anyway? She said, it's part of your education. So now on, I'll look up all the words I'm not sure how to spell. It takes a long time to write that way, but I think I'm remembering. I only have to look up once, and after that I get it right. Anyway, that's how come I got the word punctuation right. It's that way in the dictionary. Miss Kinnian says a period is punctuation too, and there are lots of other marks to learn. I told her I thought all the periods had to have tails, but she said no. You got to mix them up. She showed me how to mix them up, and now I can mix up all kinds of punctuation in my writing. There are lots of rules to learn, but I'm getting them in my head. One thing I like about Dear Miss Kinnian, that's the way it goes in a business letter if I ever go into business, is she always gives me a reason when I ask. She's a genius. I wish I could be smart like her. Punctuation is fun. April 18th. What a dope I am. I didn't even understand what she was talking about. I read the grammar book last night, and it explains the whole thing. Then I saw it was the same way as Miss Kinnian was trying to tell me, but I didn't get it. I got up in the middle of the night, and the whole thing straightened out in my mind. Miss Kinnian said that the TV working in my sleep helped out. She said I reached a plateau. That's like the flat top of a hill. After I figured out how punctuation worked, I read over all my old progress reports from the beginning. Boy, did I have crazy spelling and punctuation. I told Miss Kinnian I ought to go over the pages and fix all the mistakes, but she said, "No, Charlie, Dr. Niemer wants them just as they are. That's why he let you keep them after they were photostated, to see your own progress. You're coming along fast, Charlie." That made me feel good. After the lesson, I went down and played with Algernon. We don't race anymore. April 20th. I feel sick inside. Not sick like for a doctor, but inside my chest it feels empty, like getting punched, and a heartburn at the same time. I wasn't going to write about it, but I guess I got to, because it's important. Today was the first time I ever stayed home from work. Last night, Joe Carp and Frank Riley invited me to a party. There were lots of girls and some men from the factory. I remembered how sick I got last time I drank too much, so I told Joe I didn't want anything to drink. He gave me a plain Coke instead. It tasted funny, but I thought it was just a bad taste in my mouth. We had a lot of fun for a while. Joe said I should dance with Ellen, and she would teach me the steps. I fell a few times, and I couldn't understand why, because no one else was dancing besides Ellen and me, and all the time I was tripping because somebody's foot was always sticking out. Then, when I got up, I saw the look on Joe's face, and it gave me a funny feeling in my stomach. "He's a scream," one of the girls said. Everybody was laughing. Frank said, "I ain't laughed so much since we sent him off for the newspaper that night at Muggsy's and ditched him. Look at him. His face is red. He's blushing. Charlie is blushing. Hey, Ellen, what did you do to Charlie? I never saw him act like that before." I didn't know what to do or where to turn. Everyone was looking at me and laughing, and I felt naked. I wanted to hide myself. I ran out into the street, and I threw up. Then I walked home. It's a funny thing, I never knew that Joe and Frank and the others liked to have me around all the time to make fun of me. Now I know what it means when they say, to pull a Charlie Gordon. I'm ashamed. Progress Report 11. April 21st. Still didn't go into the factory. I told Mrs. Flynn, my landlady, to call and tell Mr. Donegan I was sick. Mrs. Flynn looks at me very funny lately, like she's scared of me. I think it's a good thing about finding out how everybody laughs at me. I thought about it a lot. It's because I'm so dumb, and I don't even know when I'm doing something dumb. People think it's funny when a dumb person can't do things the same way they can. Anyway, now I know I'm getting smarter every day. I know punctuation, and I can spell good. I like to look up all the hard words in the dictionary, and I remember them. I'm reading a lot now, and Miss Kinnian says I read very fast. Sometimes I even understand what I'm reading about, and it stays in my mind. There are times when I can close my eyes and think of a page, and it all comes back like a picture. Besides history, geography, and arithmetic, Miss Kinnian said I should start to learn a few foreign languages. Dr. Strauss gave me some more tapes to play while I sleep. I still don't understand how that conscious and unconscious mind works, but Dr. Strauss says not to worry yet. He asked me to promise that when I start learning college subjects next week, I wouldn't read any books on psychology. That is, until he gives me permission. I feel a lot better today, but I guess I'm still a little angry that all the time people were laughing and making fun of me because I wasn't so smart. When I become intelligent, like Dr. Strauss says, with 3 times my IQ of 68, then maybe I'll be like everyone else, and people will like me and be friendly. I'm not sure what an IQ is. Dr. Niemer said it was something that measured how intelligent you were, like a scale in the drugstore weighs pounds. But Dr. Strauss had a big argument with him and said an IQ didn't weigh intelligence at all. He said an IQ showed how much intelligence you could get, like the numbers on the outside of a measuring cup. You still had to fill the cup up with stuff. Then, when I asked Bert, who gives me my intelligence tests and works with Algernon, he said that both of them were wrong, only I had to promise not to tell them he said so. Bert says that the IQ measures a lot of different things, including some of the things you learned already, and it really isn't any good at all. So I still don't know what IQ is, except that mine is going to be over 200 soon. I didn't want to say anything, but I don't see how if they don't know what it is or where it is. I don't see how they know how much of it you've got. Dr. Niemer says I have to take a Rorschach test tomorrow. I wonder what that is. April 22nd. I found out what a Rorschach is. It's the test I took before the operation, the one with the ink blots on the pieces of cardboard. The man who gave me the test was the same one. I was scared to death of those ink blots. I knew he was going to ask me to find the pictures, and I knew I wouldn't be able to. I was thinking to myself, if only there was some way of knowing what kind of pictures were hidden there. Maybe there weren't any pictures at all. Maybe it was just a trick to see if I was dumb enough to look for something that wasn't there. Just thinking about that made me sore at him. "All right, Charlie," he said. "You've seen these cards before, remember?" Of course I remember. The way I said it, he knew I was angry, and he looked surprised. "Yes, of course. Now I want you to look at this one. What might this be? What do you see on this card? People see all sorts of things in these ink blots. Tell me what it might be for you, what it makes you think of." I was shocked. That wasn't what I had expected him to say at all. "You mean there are no pictures hidden in those ink blots?" He frowned and took off his glasses. "What?" "Pictures, hidden in the ink blots. Last time you told me that everyone could see them, and you wanted me to find them too." He explained to me that the last time he had used almost the exact same words he was using now. I didn't believe it, and I still have the suspicion that he misled me at the time just for the fun of it. Unless, I don't know anymore. Could I have been that feeble-minded? We went through the cards slowly. One of them looked like a pair of bats tugging at something. Another one looked like two men fencing with swords. I imagined all sorts of things. I guess I got carried away. But I didn't trust him anymore, and I kept turning them around and even looking on the back to see if there was anything there I was supposed to catch. While he was making his notes, I peeked out of the corner of my eye to read it, but it was all in code that looked like this: WF plus A DDF minus AD ORIG WF minus A SF plus OBJ. The test still doesn't make sense to me. It seems to me that anyone could make up lies about things that they didn't really see. How could he know I wasn't making a fool of him by mentioning things that I didn't really imagine? Maybe I'll understand it when Dr. Strauss lets me read up on psychology. April 25th. I figured out a new way to line up the machines in the factory, and Mr. Donegan says it will save him $10,000 a year in labor and increase production. He gave me a $25 bonus. I wanted to take Joe Karp and Frank Riley out to lunch to celebrate, but Joe said he had to buy some things for his wife, and Frank said he was meeting his cousin for lunch. I guess it'll take a little time for them to get used to the changes in me. Everybody seems to be frightened of me. When I went over to Amos Borg and tapped him on the shoulder, he jumped up in the air. People don't talk to me much anymore, or kid around the way they used to. It makes the job kind of lonely. April 27th. I got up the nerve today to ask Miss Kinnian to have dinner with me tomorrow night to celebrate my bonus. At first, she wasn't sure it was right, but I asked Dr. Strauss, and he said it was okay. Dr. Strauss and Dr. Niemer don't seem to be getting along so well. They're arguing all the time. This evening, when I came in to ask Dr. Strauss about having dinner with Miss Kinnian, I heard them shouting. Dr. Niemer was saying that it was his experiment and his research, and Dr. Strauss was shouting back that he contributed just as much because he found me through Miss Kinnian, and he performed the operation. Dr. Strauss said that someday thousands of neurosurgeons might be using his technique all over the world. Dr. Niemer wanted to publish the results of the experiment at the end of this month. Dr. Strauss wanted to wait a while longer to be sure. Dr. Strauss said that Dr. Niemer was more interested in the chair of psychology at Princeton than he was in the experiment. Dr. Niemer said that Dr. Strauss was nothing but an opportunist who was trying to ride to glory on his coattails. When I left afterwards, I found myself trembling. I don't know why for sure, but it was as if I'd seen both men clearly for the first time. I remember hearing Bert say that Dr. Niemer had a shrew of a wife who was pushing him all the time to get things published so that he could become famous. Bert said that the dream of her life was to have a big-shot husband. Was Dr. Strauss really trying to ride on his coattails? April 28th. I don't understand why I never noticed how beautiful Miss Kinnian really is. She has brown eyes and feathery brown hair that comes to the top of her neck. She's only 34. I think from the beginning I had the feeling that she was an unreachable genius, and very, very old. Now, every time I see her, she grows younger and more lovely. We had dinner and a long talk. When she said that I was coming along so fast that soon I'd be leaving her behind, I laughed. It's true, Charlie. You're already a better reader than I am. You can read a whole page at a glance, while I can take in only a few lines at a time. And you remember every single thing you read. I'm lucky if I can recall the main thoughts and the general meaning. I don't feel intelligent. There are so many things I don't understand. You've got to be a little patient. You're accomplishing in days and weeks what it takes normal people to do in half a lifetime. That's what makes it so amazing. You're like a giant sponge now, soaking things in. Facts, figures, general knowledge. And soon you'll begin to connect them, too. You'll see how the different branches of learning are related. There are many levels, Charlie, like steps on a giant ladder that take you up higher and higher to see more and more of the world around you. I can see only a little bit of that, Charlie, and I won't go much higher than I am now. But you'll keep climbing up and see more and more, and each step will open new worlds that you never even knew existed. She frowned. I just hope to God. What? Never mind, Charles. I just hope I wasn't wrong to advise you to go into this in the first place. I laughed. How could that be? It worked, didn't it? Even Algernon is still smart. We sat there silently for a while, and I knew what she was thinking about as she watched me toying with the chain of my rabbit's foot and my keys. I didn't want to think of that possibility any more than elderly people want to think of death. I knew that this was only the beginning. I knew what she meant about levels because I'd seen some of them already. The thought of leaving her behind made me sad. I'm in love with Miss Kinnian. Progress Report 12, April 30th. I've quit my job with Donegan's Plastic Box Company. Mr. Donegan insisted that it would be better for all concerned if I left. What did I do to make them hate me so? The first I knew of it was when Mr. Donegan showed me the petition. 840 names, everyone connected with the factory except Fanny Gurdon. Scanning the list quickly, I saw at once that hers was the only missing name. All the rest demanded that I be fired. Joe Carp and Frank Riley wouldn't talk to me about it. No one else would, either, except Fanny. She was one of the few people I'd known who set her mind to something and believed it no matter what the rest of the world proved, said, or did. And Fanny did not believe that I should have been fired. She had been against the petition on principle, and despite the pressure and threats she'd held out. Which don't mean to say, she remarked, that I don't think there's something mighty strange about you, Charlie. Them changes, I don't know. You used to be a good, dependable, ordinary man. Not too bright, maybe, but honest. Who knows what you've done to yourself to get so smart all of a sudden? Like everybody around here's been saying, Charlie, it's not right. But how can you say that, Fanny? What's wrong with a man becoming intelligent and wanting to acquire knowledge and understanding of the world around him? She stared down at her work, and I turned to leave. Without looking at me, she said, "It was evil when Eve listened to the snake and ate from the tree of knowledge. It was evil when she saw that she was naked. If not for that, none of us would ever have to grow old and sick and die." Once again, now I have the feeling of shame burning inside me. This intelligence has driven a wedge between me and all the people I once knew and loved. Before, they laughed at me and despised me for my ignorance and dullness. Now, they hate me for my knowledge and understanding. What do they want of me? They've driven me out of the factory. Now I'm more alone than ever before. May 15th. Dr. Strauss is very angry at me for not having written any progress reports in 2 weeks. He's justified because the lab is now paying me a regular salary. I told him I was too busy thinking and reading. When I pointed out that writing was such a slow process that it made me impatient with my poor handwriting, he suggested that I learn to type. It's much easier to write now because I can type nearly 75 words a minute. Dr. Strauss continually reminds me of the need to speak and write simply so that people will be able to understand me. I'll try to review all the things that happened to me during the last 2 weeks. Algernon and I were presented to the American Psychological Association, sitting in convention with the World Psychological Association last Tuesday. We created quite a sensation. Dr. Niemer and Dr. Strauss were proud of us. I suspect that Dr. Niemer, who is 60, 10 years older than Dr. Strauss, finds it necessary to see tangible results of his work. Undoubtedly, the result of pressure by Mrs. Niemer. Contrary to my earlier impressions of him, I realize that Dr. Niemer is not at all a genius. He has a very good mind, but it struggles under the specter of self-doubt. He wants people to take him for a genius. Therefore, it is important for him to feel that his work is accepted by the world. I believe that Dr. Niemer was afraid of further delay because he worried that someone else might make a discovery along these lines and take the credit from him. Dr. Strauss, on the other hand, might be called a genius, although I feel that his areas of knowledge are too limited. He was educated in the tradition of narrow specialization. The broader aspects of background were neglected far more than necessary, even for a neurosurgeon. I was shocked to learn that the only ancient languages he could read were Latin, Greek, and Hebrew, and that he knows almost nothing of mathematics, beyond the elementary levels of the calculus of variations. When he admitted this to me, I found myself almost annoyed. It was as if he'd hidden this part of himself in order to deceive me, pretending, as do many people I've discovered, to be what he is not. No one I've ever known is what he appears to be on the surface. Dr. Niemer appears to be uncomfortable around me. Sometimes, when I try to talk to him, he just looks at me strangely and turns away. I was angry at first when Dr. Strauss told me I was giving Dr. Niemer an inferiority complex. I thought he was mocking me, and I'm oversensitive at being made fun of. How was I to know that a highly respected psycho-experimentalist like Niemer was unacquainted with Hindustani and Chinese? It's absurd when you consider the work that is being done in India and China today in the very field of his study. I asked Dr. Strauss how Niemer could refute Rahajamati's attack on his method and results if Niemer couldn't even read them in the first place. That strange look on Dr. Strauss's face can mean only one of two things. Either he doesn't want to tell Niemer what they're saying in India, or else, and this worries me, Dr. Strauss doesn't know either. I must be careful to speak and write clearly and simply so that people won't laugh. May 18th. I am very disturbed. I saw Miss Kinnian last night for the first time in over a week. I tried to avoid all discussions of intellectual concepts and to keep the conversation on a simple, everyday level, but she just stared at me blankly and asked me what I meant about the mathematical variance equivalent in Doberman's Fifth Concerto. When I tried to explain, she stopped me and laughed. I guess I got angry, but I suspect I'm approaching her on the wrong level. No matter what I try to discuss with her, I am unable to communicate. I must review Vroestad's equations on levels of semantic progression. I find that I don't communicate with people much anymore. Thank God for books and music and things I can think about. I am alone in my apartment at Mrs. Flynn's boarding house most of the time, and seldom speak to anyone. May 20th. I would not have noticed the new dishwasher, a boy of about 16, at the corner diner where I take my evening meals, if not for the incident of the broken dishes. They crashed to the floor, shattering and sending bits of white china under the tables. The boy stood there, dazed and frightened, holding the empty tray in his hand. The whistles and catcalls from the customers, the cries of, "Hey, there go the profits," "Mazel tov," and, "Well, he didn't work here very long," which invariably seems to follow the breaking of glass or dishware in a public restaurant, all seemed to confuse him. When the owner came to see what the excitement was about, the boy cowered, as if he expected to be struck, and threw up his arms as if to ward off the blow. All right, you dope," shouted the owner. "Don't just stand there. Get the broom and sweep that mess up." A broom, you idiot. It's in the kitchen. Sweep up all the pieces." The boy saw that he was not going to be punished. His frightened expression disappeared, and he smiled and hummed as he came back with the broom to sweep the floor. A few of the rowdier customers kept up the remarks, amusing themselves at his expense. "Here, sonny, over here there's a nice piece behind you." "Come on, do it again." "He's not so dumb. It's easier to break 'em than to wash 'em." As his vacant eyes moved across the crowd of amused onlookers, he slowly mirrored their smiles and finally broke into an uncertain grin at the joke, which he obviously did not understand. I felt sick inside as I looked at his dull, vacuous smile, the wide, bright eyes of a child, uncertain but eager to please. They were laughing at him because he was mentally retarded. And I had been laughing at him too. Suddenly I was furious at myself and all those who were smirking at him. I jumped up and shouted, "Shut up! Leave him alone. It's not his fault he can't understand. He can't help what he is, but he's still a human being." The room grew silent. I cursed myself for losing control and creating a scene. I tried not to look at the boy as I paid my check and walked out without touching my food. I felt ashamed for both of us. How strange it is that people of honest feelings and sensibility, who would not take advantage of a man born without arms or legs or eyes, how such people think nothing of abusing a man born with low intelligence. It infuriated me to think that not too long ago I, like this boy, had foolishly played the clown. And I had almost forgotten. I'd hidden the picture of the old Charlie Gordon from myself because, now that I was intelligent, it was something that had to be pushed out of my mind. But today, in looking at that boy, for the first time, I saw what I had been. I was just like him. Only a short time ago I learned that people laughed at me. Now I can see that, unknowingly, I joined with them in laughing at myself. That hurts most of all. I have often reread my progress reports and seen the illiteracy, the childish naivete, the mind of low intelligence peering from a dark room, through the keyhole, at the dazzling light outside. I see that even in my dullness I knew that I was inferior and that other people had something I lacked, something denied me. In my mental blindness, I thought that it was somehow connected with the ability to read and write, and I was sure that if I could get those skills, I would automatically have intelligence too. Even a feeble-minded man wants to be like other men. A child may not know how to feed itself or what to eat, yet it knows of hunger. This, then, is what I was like. I never knew. Even with my gift of intellectual awareness, I never really knew. This day was good for me. Seeing the past more clearly, I have decided to use my knowledge and skills to work in the field of increasing human intelligence levels. Who is better equipped for this work? Who else has lived in both worlds? These are my people. Let me use my gift to do something for them. Tomorrow, I will discuss with Dr. Strauss the manner in which I can work in this area. I may be able to help him work out the problems of widespread use of the technique which was used on me. I have several good ideas of my own. There is so much that might be done with this technique. If I could be made into a genius, what about thousands of others like myself? What fantastic levels might be achieved by using this technique on normal people? On geniuses? There are so many doors to open. I am impatient to begin. Progress Report 13, May 23rd. It happened today. Algernon bit me. I visited the lab to see him, as I do occasionally, and when I took him out of his cage, he snapped at my hand. I put him back and watched him for a while. He was unusually disturbed and vicious. May 24th. Bert, who is in charge of the experimental animals, tells me that Algernon is changing. He is less cooperative. He refuses to run the maze anymore. General motivation has decreased. And he hasn't been eating. Everyone is upset about what this may mean. May 25th. They've been feeding Algernon, who now refuses to work the shifting lock problem. Everyone identifies me with Algernon. In a way, we're both the first of our kind. They're all pretending that Algernon's behavior is not necessarily significant for me. But it's hard to hide the fact that some of the other animals who were used in this experiment are showing strange behavior. Dr. Strauss and Dr. Niemer have asked me not to come to the lab anymore. I know what they're thinking, but I can't accept it. I am going ahead with my plans to carry their research forward. With all due respect to both of these fine scientists, I am well aware of their limitations. If there is an answer, I'll have to find it out for myself. Suddenly, time has become very important to me. May 29th. I have been given a lab of my own and permission to go ahead with the research. I'm on to something. Working day and night, I've had a cot moved into the lab. Most of my writing time is spent on the notes which I keep in a separate folder, but from time to time I feel it necessary to put down my moods and my thoughts out of sheer habit. I find the calculus of intelligence to be a fascinating study. Here is the place for the application of all the knowledge I have acquired. In a sense, it's the problem I've been concerned with all my life. May 31st. Dr. Strauss thinks I'm working too hard. Dr. Niemer says I'm trying to cram a lifetime of research and thought into a few weeks. I know I should rest, but I'm driven on by something inside that won't let me stop. I've got to find the reason for the sharp regression in Algernon. I've got to know if and when it will happen to me. June 4th. Letter to Dr. Strauss. Copy. Dear Dr. Strauss, under separate cover, I am sending you a copy of my report entitled The Algernon-Gordon Effect, a study of structure and function of increased intelligence, which I would like to have you read and have published. As you see, my experiments are completed. I have included in my report all of my formulae, as well as mathematical analysis in the appendix. Of course, these should be verified. Because of its importance to both you and Dr. Niemer, and need I say to myself too, I have checked and rechecked my results a dozen times in the hope of finding an error. I am sorry to say the results must stand. Yet for the sake of science, I am grateful for the little bit that I here add to the knowledge of the function of the human mind and of the laws governing the artificial increase of human intelligence. I recall your once saying to me that an experimental failure, or the disproving of a theory, was as important to the advancement of learning as a success would be. I know now that this is true. I am sorry, however, that my own contribution to the field must rest upon the ashes of the work of two men I regard so highly. Yours truly, Charles Gordon. Enclosure. Report. June 5th. I must not become emotional. The facts and the results of my experiments are clear, and the more sensational aspects of my own rapid climb cannot obscure the fact that the tripling of intelligence by the surgical technique developed by Doctors Strauss and Niemer must be viewed as having little or no practical applicability, at the present time, to the increase of human intelligence. As I review the records and data on Algernon, I see that although he is still in his physical infancy, he has regressed mentally. Motor activity is impaired. There is a general reduction of glandular activity. There is an accelerated loss of coordination. There are also strong indications of progressive amnesia. As will be seen by my report, these and other physical and mental deterioration syndromes can be predicted with statistically significant results by the application of my formula. The surgical stimulus to which we were both subjected has resulted in an intensification and acceleration of all mental processes. The unforeseen development, which I have taken the liberty of calling the Algernon-Gordon effect, is the logical extension of the entire intelligence speed-up. The hypothesis here proven may be described simply in the following terms. Artificially increased intelligence deteriorates at a rate of time directly proportional to the quantity of the increase. I feel that this, in itself, is an important discovery. As long as I am able to write, I will continue to record my thoughts in these progress reports. It is one of my few pleasures. However, by all indications, my own mental deterioration will be very rapid. I have already begun to notice signs of emotional instability and forgetfulness, the first symptoms of the burnout. June 10th. Deterioration progressing. I have become absent-minded. Algernon died 2 days ago. Dissection shows my predictions were right. His brain had decreased in weight, and there was a general smoothing out of cerebral convolutions, as well as a deepening and broadening of brain fissures. I guess the same thing is or will soon be happening to me. Now that it's definite, I don't want it to happen. I put Algernon's body in a cheese box and buried him in the backyard. I cried. June 15th. Dr. Strauss came to see me again. I wouldn't open the door, and I told him to go away. I want to be left to myself. I have become touchy and irritable. I feel the darkness closing in. I keep telling myself how important this introspective journal will be. It's a strange sensation to pick up a book that you've read and enjoyed just a few months ago and discover that you don't remember it. I remembered how great I thought John Milton was, but when I picked up Paradise Lost, I couldn't understand it at all. I got so angry I threw the book across the room. I've got to try to hold on to some of it, some of the things I've learned. Oh God, please don't take it all away. June 19th. Sometimes, at night, I go out for a walk. Last night I couldn't remember where I lived. a policeman took me home. I have the strange feeling that this has all happened to me before, a long time ago. I keep telling myself I'm the only person in the world who can describe what's happening to me. June 21st. Why can't I remember? I've got to fight. I lie in bed for days, and I don't know who or where I am. Then it all comes back to me in a flash. Fugues of amnesia. Symptoms of senility. Second childhood. I can watch them coming on. It's so cruelly logical. I learned so much and so fast. Now my mind is deteriorating rapidly. I won't let it happen. I'll fight it. I can't help thinking of the boy in the restaurant, the blank expression, the silly smile, the people laughing at him. No, please, not that again. June 22nd. I'm forgetting things that I learned recently. It seems to be following the classic pattern. The last things learned are the first things forgotten. Or is that the pattern? I'd better look it up again. I reread my paper on the Algernon Gordon effect, and I get the strange feeling that it was written by someone else. There are parts I don't even understand. Motor activity impaired. I keep tripping over things, and it becomes increasingly difficult to type. June 23rd. I've given up using the typewriter completely. My coordination is bad. I feel that I'm moving slower and slower. Had a terrible shock today. I picked up a copy of an article I used in my research, Kruger's Über psychische Ganzheit, to see if it would help me understand what I had done. First I thought there was something wrong with my eyes. Then I realized I could no longer read German. I tested myself in other languages. All gone. June 30th. A week since I dared to write again. It's slipping away like sand through my fingers. Most of the books I have are too hard for me now. I get angry with them because I know that I read and understood them just a few weeks ago. I keep telling myself I must keep writing these reports so that somebody will know what is happening to me. But it gets harder to form the words and remember spellings. I have to look up even simple words in the dictionary now, and it makes me impatient with myself. Dr. Strauss comes around almost every day, but I told him I wouldn't see or speak to anybody. He feels guilty. They all do. But I don't blame anyone. I knew what might happen. But how it hurts. July 7th. I don't know where the week went. Today's Sunday, I know, because I can see through my window people going to church. I think I stayed in bed all week, but I remember Mrs. Flynn bringing food to me a few times. I keep saying over and over, I've got to do something, but then I forget, or maybe it's just easier not to do what I say I'm going to do. I think of my mother and father a lot these days. I found a picture of them with me taken at a beach. My father has a big ball under his arm, and my mother is holding me by the hand. I don't remember them the way they are in the picture. All I remember is my father arguing with Mom about money. He never shaved much, and he used to scratch my face when he hugged me. He said he was going to take me to see cows on a farm once, but he never did. He never kept his promises. July 10th. My landlady, Mrs. Flynn, is very worried about me. She said she doesn't like loafers. If I'm sick, it's one thing, but if I'm a loafer, that's another thing, and she won't have it. I told her I think I'm sick. I try to read a little bit every day, mostly stories, but sometimes I have to read the same thing over and over again because I don't know what it means. And it's hard to write. I know I should look up all the words in the dictionary, but it's so hard and I'm so tired all the time. Then I got the idea that I would only use the easy words instead of the long, hard ones. That saves time. I put flowers on Algernon's grave about once a week. Mrs. Flynn thinks I'm crazy to put flowers on a mouse's grave, but I told her that Algernon was special. July 14th. It's Sunday again. I don't have anything to do to keep me busy now because my television set is broke, and I don't have any money to get it fixed. I think I lost this month's check from the lab. I don't remember. I get awful headaches, and aspirin doesn't help me much. Mrs. Flynn knows I'm really sick, and she feels very sorry for me. She's a wonderful woman whenever someone is sick. July 22nd. Mrs. Flynn called a strange doctor to see me. She was afraid I was going to die. I told the doctor I wasn't too sick and that I only forget sometimes. He asked me, did I have any friends or relatives, and I said no, I don't have any. I told him I had a friend called Algernon once, but he was a mouse, and we used to run races together. He looked at me kind of funny, like he thought I was crazy. He smiled when I told him I used to be a genius. He talked to me like I was a baby, and he winked at Mrs. Flynn. I got mad and chased him out because he was making fun of me the way they all used to. July 24th. I have no more money, and Mrs. Flynn says I got to go to work somewhere and pay the rent because I haven't paid for over 2 months. I don't know any work but the job I used to have at Donegan's Plastic Box Company. I don't want to go back there because they all knew me when I was smart, and maybe they'll laugh at me. But I don't know what else to do to get money. July 25th. I was looking at some of my old progress reports, and it's very funny, but I can't read what I wrote. I can make out some of the words, but they don't make sense. Miss Kinnian came to the door, but I said, "Go away. I don't want to see you." She cried, and I cried too, but I wouldn't let her in because I didn't want her to laugh at me. I told her I didn't like her anymore. I told her I didn't want to be smart anymore. That's not true. I still love her, and I still want to be smart, but I had to say that so she'd go away. She gave Mrs. Flynn money to pay the rent. I don't want that. I got to get a job. Please let me not forget how to read and write. July 27th. Mr. Donegan was very nice when I came back and asked him for my old job of janitor. First he was very suspicious, but I told him what happened to me. Then he looked very sad and put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Charlie Gordon, you got guts." Everybody looked at me when I came downstairs and started working in the toilet, sweeping it out like I used to. I told myself, "Charlie, if they make fun of you, don't get sore because you remember they're not so smart as you once thought they were. And besides, they were once your friends, and if they laughed at you, that doesn't mean anything, because they liked you too." One of the new men who came to work there after I went away made a nasty crack. He said, "Hey, Charlie, I hear you're a very smart fella, a real quiz kid." Say something intelligent. I felt bad, but Joe Carp came over and grabbed him by the shirt and said, "Leave him alone or I'll break your neck." I didn't expect Joe to take my part, so I guess he's really my friend. Later, Frank Riley came over and said, "Charlie, if anybody bothers you or tries to take advantage, you call me or Joe, and we will set him straight." I said, "Thanks, Frank," and I got choked up, so I had to turn around and go into the supply room so he wouldn't see me cry. It's good to have friends. July 28th. I did a dumb thing today. I forgot I wasn't in Miss Kinnian's class at the Adult Center anymore like I used to be. I went in and sat down in my old seat in the back of the room, and she looked at me funny, and she said, "Charles?" I didn't remember she ever called me that before, only Charlie. So I said, "Hello, Miss Kinnian. I'm ready for my lesson today, only I lost my reader that we was using." She started to cry and run out of the room, and everybody looked at me, and I saw they wasn't the same people who used to be in my class. Then, all of a sudden, I remembered some things about the operation and me getting smart, and I said, "Holy smoke, I really pulled a Charlie Gordon that time." I went away before she come back to the room. That's why I'm going away from New York for good. I don't want to do nothing like that again. I don't want Miss Kinnian to feel sorry for me. Everybody feels sorry at the factory, and I don't want that either, so I'm going someplace where nobody knows that Charlie Gordon was once a genius, and now he can't even read a book or write good. I'm taking a couple of books along, and even if I can't read them, I'll practice hard, and maybe I won't forget everything I learned. If I try real hard, maybe I'll be a little smarter than I was before the operation. I got my rabbit's foot and my lucky penny, and maybe they will help me. If you ever read this, Miss Kinnian, don't be sorry for me. I'm glad I got a second chance to be smart, because I learned a lot of things that I never even knew were in this world, and I'm grateful that I saw it all for a little bit. I don't know why I'm dumb again, or what I did wrong. Maybe it's because I didn't try hard enough. But if I try and practice very hard, maybe I'll get a little smarter and know what all the words are. I remember a little bit how nice I had a feeling with the blue book that has the torn cover when I read it. That's why I'm going to keep trying to get smart, so I can have that feeling again. It's a good feeling to know things and be smart. I wish I had it right now. If I did, I would sit down and read all the time. Anyway, I bet I'm the first dumb person in the world who ever found out something important for science. I remember I did something, but I don't remember what. So I guess it's like I did it for all the dumb people like me. Goodbye, Miss Kinnian, and Dr. Strauss, and everybody. And P.S., please tell Dr. Niemer not to be such a grouch when people laugh at him, and he would have more friends. It's easy to make friends if you let people laugh at you. I'm going to have lots of friends where I go. P.P.S. Please, if you get a chance, put some flowers on Algernon's grave in the backyard.
The last question was asked for the first time, half in jest, on May 21st, 2061, at a time when humanity first stepped into the light. The question came about as a result of a $5 bet over highballs, and it happened this way. Alexander Adele and Bertram Lupov were two of the faithful attendants of Multivac. As well as any human beings could, they knew what lay behind the cold, clicking, flashing face, miles and miles of face, of that giant computer. Multivac was self-adjusting and self-correcting. It had to be, for nothing human could adjust and correct it quickly enough or even adequately enough. So Adele and Lupov attended the monstrous giant only lightly and superficially. They fed it data, they adjusted questions to its needs, and they translated the answers that were issued. For decades, Multivac had helped design the ships and plot the trajectories that enabled man to reach the Moon, Mars, and Venus, but past that, Earth's poor resources could not support the ships. Too much energy was needed for the long trips. Earth exploited its coal and uranium with increasing efficiency, but there was only so much of both. But slowly, Multivac learned enough to answer deeper questions more fundamentally, and on May 14, 2061, what had been theory became fact. The energy of the sun was stored, converted, and utilized directly on a planet-wide scale. All Earth turned off its burning coal, its fissioning uranium, and flipped the switch that connected all of it to a small station 1 mile in diameter, circling the Earth at half the distance of the Moon. All Earth ran by invisible beams of sun power. 7 days had not sufficed to dim the glory of it, and Adele and Lupov finally managed to escape from the public functions and to meet in quiet, where no one would think of looking for them, in the deserted underground chambers where portions of the mighty buried body of Multivac showed. They'd brought a bottle with them, and their only concern at the moment was to relax in the company of each other and the bottle. "It's amazing when you think of it," said Adele. His broad face had lines of weariness in it, and he stirred his drink slowly with a glass rod, watching the cubes of ice slur clumsily about. "All the energy we could ever use, forever and forever and forever. Huh." Lupov cocked his head sideways. He had a trick of doing that when he wanted to be contrary, and he wanted to be contrary now. "Not forever," he said. "Oh, hell, just about forever, till the sun runs down, Bert. That's not forever." "All right, then. Billions and billions of years, 10 billion, maybe. You satisfied?" Lupov put his fingers through his thinning hair, as though to reassure himself that some was still left, and he sipped gently at his own drink. 10 billion years isn't forever. Well, it'll last our time, won't it? So would the coal and the uranium. All right. But now we can hook up each individual spaceship to the solar station, and it can go to Pluto and back 1,000,000 times without ever having to worry about fuel. You can't do that on coal and uranium. Ask Multivac if you don't believe me. I don't have to ask Multivac. I know that. Then stop running down what Multivac's done for us, said Adele, blazing up. It did all right. Who says it didn't? What I say is that the sun won't last forever. We're safe for 10 billion years, but then what? Lupov pointed a slightly shaky finger at the other. And don't say that we'll switch to another sun. There was silence for a while. Adele put his glass to his lips only occasionally, and Lupov's eyes slowly closed. They rested. Then Lupov's eyes snapped open. You're thinking we'll switch to another sun when ours is done. Huh? Aren't you? I'm not thinking. Sure you are. You're weak on logic, that's the trouble with you. You're like the guy in the story who was caught in a sudden shower and ran to a grove of trees and got under one. Oh, he wasn't worried, you see, because he figured that when one tree got wet through, he would just get under another one. I get it, said Adele. Don't shout. When the sun is done, the other stars will be gone too. Damn right they will, muttered Lupov. It all had a beginning in the original cosmic explosion, whatever that was. And it'll all have an end when all the stars run down. Some run down faster than the others. The giants won't last 100 million years. The sun will last 10 billion years, and maybe the dwarfs will last 200 billion for all the good they are. But just give us 1 trillion years, and everything will be dark. Entropy has to increase to a maximum. That's all. I know all about entropy, said Adele, standing on his dignity. The hell you do. I know as much as you. Then you know everything's got to run down someday. It was Adele's turn to be contrary. Maybe we can build things up again someday, he said. Never. Why not? Someday. Never. Ask Multivac. You ask Multivac. I dare you. $5 says it can't be done. Adele was just drunk enough to try, just sober enough to be able to phrase the necessary symbols and operations into a question which, in words, might have corresponded to this. Will mankind one day, without the net expenditure of energy, be able to restore the sun to its full youthfulness even after it had died of old age? Multivac fell dead and silent. The slow flashing of lights ceased, the distant sounds of clicking relays ended. And then, just as the frightened technicians felt that they could hold their breath no longer, there was a sudden springing to life of the teletype attached to that portion of Multivac. 5 words were printed. Insufficient data for meaningful answer? No bet, whispered Lupov. And they left hurriedly. Jared, Geraldine, and Jaredette 1 and 2 watched the starry picture in the visiplate change as the passage through hyperspace was completed in its non-time lapse. At once, the even powdering of stars gave way to the predominance of a single bright shining disk, the size of a marble, centered on the viewing screen. "That's X-23, said Jared confidently. The little Jaredettes, both girls, had experienced the hyperspace passage for the first time in their lives, and were self-conscious over the momentary sensation of inside-outness. They buried their giggles and chased one another wildly about their mother, screaming, "We've reached X-23! We've reached X-23! "Quiet, children," said Geraldine sharply. "Are you sure, Jared?" "What is there to be but sure?" asked Jared, glancing up at the bulge of the featureless metal just under the ceiling. Jared scarcely knew a thing about the thick rod of metal, except that it was called a microvac, that one asked it questions if one wished, that if one did not, it still had its task of guiding the ship to a pre-ordered destination, of feeding on energies from the various subgalactic power stations, of computing the equations for the hyperspatial jumps. Jared and his family had only to wait and live in the comfortable residence quarters of the ship. Someone had once told Jared that the AC at the end of microvac stood for automatic computer in ancient English, but he was on the edge of forgetting even that. Geraldine's eyes were moist as she watched the visiplate. "I can't help it. I feel funny about leaving Earth." "Why?" demanded Jared. "We had nothing there. We'll have everything on X-23. Well, you won't be alone. You won't be a pioneer. There are over 1 million people on the planet already." And then, after a reflective pause, "I tell you, it's a lucky thing the computers worked out interstellar travel the way the race is growing." I know, said Geraldine miserably. Jaredette 1 said promptly, "Our microvac is the best microvac in the world." "I think so too," said Jared, tousling her hair. It was a nice feeling to have a microvac of your own, and Jared was glad that he was part of his generation and no other. In his father's youth, the only computers had been tremendous machines, taking up 100 square miles of land. There was only one to a planet. Planetary ACs, they were called, and they'd been growing in size steadily for 1,000 years, and then, all at once, came refinement. In place of transistors had come molecular valves, so that even the largest planetary AC could be now put into a space only half the volume of a spaceship. Jared felt uplifted, as he always did when he thought that his own personal microvac was many times more complicated than the ancient and primitive multivac that had first tamed the sun, and almost as complicated as Earth's planetary AC that had first solved the problem of hyperspatial travel, and had made trips to the stars possible. "So many stars, so many planets," sighed Geraldine. "I suppose families will be going out to new planets forever the way we are now." "Not forever," said Jared with a smile. "It will all stop someday, but not for billions of years. Even the stars run down, you know. Entropy must increase." "What's entropy, Daddy?" shrilled Gerardette, too. Entropy, little sweet, is just a word which means the amount of running down of the universe. Everything runs down, you know, like your walkie-talkie robot. Remember? Can't you just put in a new power unit, like with my robot? Well, in the universe, the stars are the power units, and once they're gone, there are no more power units. Gerardette 1 at once set up a howl. "Oh, don't let them, Daddy! Don't let the stars run down!" "Now look what you've done," whispered Gerardine, exasperated. "How was I to know it would frighten them?" Gerard whispered back. "Ask the microvac," wailed Gerardette 1. "Ask him how to turn the stars on again." "Go ahead," said Gerardine. "It will quieten them down." Gerard shrugged. No, I'll ask Microvac. No, don't worry, he'll tell us." He asked the Microvac, adding quickly, "Print the answer." Gerard cupped the strip of the thin cellufilm and said cheerfully, "See now, the Microvac says it'll take care of everything when the time comes, so don't worry." Gerardine said, "And now, children, it's time for bed. We'll be in our new home soon." Gerard read the words on the cellufilm again before destroying it. Insufficient data for meaningful answer. VJ-23X of Lameth stared into the black depths of the three-dimensional small-scale map of the galaxy and said, "Are we ridiculous, I wonder, in being so concerned about the matter?" MQ-17J of Nikron shook his head. "I think not. You know the galaxy will be filled in 5 years at the present rate of expansion." Both seemed in their early 20s. Both were tall and perfectly formed. "Still," said VJ-23X, "I hesitate to submit a pessimistic report to the Galactic Council. I wouldn't consider any other kind of report. Stir them up a bit." VJ-23X sighed. "Space is infinite. 100 billion galaxies are there for the taking." 100 billion is not infinite, it's getting less infinite all the time. Consider, 20,000 years ago, mankind first solved the problem of utilizing stellar energy, and a few centuries later, interstellar travel became possible. It took mankind 1,000,000 years to fill one small world, and then only 15,000 years to fill the rest of the galaxy. And now the population doubles every 10 years. VJ-23X interrupted. "We can thank immortality for that. The Galactic AC has solved many problems for us, but in solving the problem of preventing old age and death, it has undone all its other solutions." "Yet, you wouldn't want to abandon life, I suppose?" "Not at all," snapped MQ-17J, softening it at once to, "Not yet. I'm by no means old enough. How old are you?" 223. And you? I'm still under 200. But to get back to my point, population doubles every 10 years. Once this galaxy is filled, we'll have filled another in 10 years. Another 10 years and we'll have filled 2 more. In 10,000 years, the entire known universe. And then what? VJ-23X said, "As a side issue, there's a problem of transportation. I wonder how many sun power units it'll take to move galaxies of individuals from one galaxy to the next." "It's a very good point. Already mankind consumes 2 sun power units per year. Most of it's wasted. After all, our own galaxy alone pours out 1,000 sun power units a year, and we only use 2 of those." "Granted. But even with 100% efficiency, we only stave off the end. Our energy requirements are going up in a geometric progression, even faster than our population. We'll run out of energy even sooner than we run out of galaxies." "Well, there may be some way to reverse entropy. We ought to ask the Galactic AC." VJ-23X was not really serious, but MQ-17J pulled out his AC contact from his pocket and placed it on the table before him. "I've half a mind to," he said. "It's something the human race will have to face someday." He stared somberly at his small AC contact. It was only 2 inches cubed and nothing in itself, but It was connected through hyperspace with the great galactic AC that served all mankind. MQ-17J paused to wonder if someday, in his immortal life, he would get to see the galactic AC. He asked suddenly of his AC contact, "Can entropy ever be reversed?" VJ-23X looked startled and said at once, "Oh, I say, I didn't really mean to have you ask that." "Why not?" "We both know entropy can't be reversed. You can't turn smoke and ash back into a tree." "Do you have trees on your world?" asked MQ-17J. The sound of the galactic AC startled them into silence. Its voice came, thin and beautiful, out of the small AC contact on the desk. It said, "There is insufficient data for a meaningful answer?" VJ-23X said, "See?" Z-Prime's mind spanned the new galaxy with a faint interest in the countless twists of stars that powdered it. He had never seen this one before. Would he ever see them all? So many of them, each with its load of humanity, but a load that was almost a dead weight. More and more, the real essence of men was to be found out here, in space. Minds, not bodies. The immortal bodies remained back on the planets, in suspension over the eons. Sometimes they roused for material activity, but that was growing rarer. Few new individuals were coming into existence, but what matter? There was little room in the universe for new individuals. Z-Prime was roused out of his reverie upon coming across the wispy tendrils of another mind. "I am Z-Prime," he said. "And you?" "I am D-1. Your galaxy?" "Well, we call it only the galaxy. And you?" "We call ours the same. All men call their galaxy and nothing more." "True, since all galaxies are the same." "Not all galaxies. On one particular galaxy, the race of man must have originated." And Z-Prime said, "On which one?" "I cannot say. The universal AC would know." "Shall we ask him?" "I am suddenly curious." Z-Prime's perceptions broadened until the galaxies themselves shrank and became a new, more diffuse powdering on a much larger background. So many hundreds of billions of them, all with their immortal beings, all carrying their load of intelligences with minds that drifted freely through space. And yet one of them was unique among them all. One of them had in its vague and distant past a period when it was the only galaxy populated by man. Z-Prime was consumed with curiosity to see this galaxy, and he called out, "Universal AC! On which galaxy did mankind originate?" The Universal AC heard, for on every world and throughout space it had its receptors ready, and each receptor led through hyperspace to some unknown point where the Universal AC kept itself aloof. The day had long since passed, Z-Prime knew, when any man had any part of the making of a Universal AC. Each Universal AC designed and constructed its successor, in which its own store of data and individuality would be submerged. The Universal AC interrupted Z-Prime's wandering thoughts, not with words, but with guidance. Z-Prime's mentality was guided into the dim sea of galaxies, and one in particular enlarged into stars. A thought came, infinitely distant, but infinitely clear. This is the original galaxy of man. But it was the same, after all. The same as any other. And Z-Prime stifled his disappointment. D-1, whose mind had accompanied the other, said suddenly, "And is one of these stars the original star of man?" The Universal AC said, "Man's original star has gone nova. It is a white dwarf." "Did the men upon it die?" asked Z Prime, startled and without thinking. The Universal AC said, "A new world, as in such cases, was constructed for their physical bodies in time?" "Yes, of course," said Z Prime. But a sense of loss overwhelmed him even so. His mind released its hold on the original galaxy of man. He never wanted to see it again. D-1 said, "What is wrong?" "The stars are dying. The original star is dead." "They must all die. Why not?" "But when all energy is gone, our bodies will finally die, and you and I with them." "It will take billions of years." "I do not wish it to happen even after billions of years. Universal AC, how may stars be kept from dying?" And the Universal AC answered, "There is as yet insufficient data for a meaningful answer." Z Prime's thoughts fled back to his own galaxy. He gave no further thought to D-1, whose body might be waiting on a galaxy 1,000,000,000,000 light-years away, or on the star next to Z Prime's own. It didn't matter. Unhappily, Z Prime began collecting interstellar hydrogen out of which to build a small star of his own. If the stars must someday die, at least some could yet be built. Man considered with himself, for in a way man mentally was one. He consisted of 1,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000 ageless bodies, each in its place, each resting quiet and incorruptible, each cared for by perfect automatons, equally incorruptible, while the minds of all the bodies freely melted one into the other, indistinguishable. Man said, "The universe is dying." Man looked about the dimming galaxies. Almost all the stars were white dwarfs. They were fading to the end. And new stars had been built of the dust between the stars, some by natural processes, some by man himself, and those were going, too. White dwarfs might yet be crashed together, and of the mighty forces so released, new stars built. But only one star for every 1,000 white dwarfs destroyed, and those would come to an end, too. Man said, "Carefully husbanded, as directed by the cosmic AC, the energy that is left will last for billions of years." "But even so," said man, "eventually it will all come to an end. However it may be husbanded, however stretched out, the energy once expended is gone, and cannot be restored. Entropy must increase forever to the maximum." Man said, "Can entropy not be reversed? Let us ask the cosmic AC." The cosmic AC surrounded them, but not in space. Not a fragment of it was in space. It was in hyperspace, and made of something that was neither matter nor energy. Man said, "How may entropy be reversed?" The cosmic AC said, "There is as yet insufficient data for a meaningful answer." Man said, "Collect additional data." The cosmic AC said, "I will do so. I have been doing so for 100 billion years. My predecessors and I have been asked this question many times. All the data I have remains insufficient. Will there come a time when data will be sufficient, or is the problem insoluble?" The cosmic AC said, "No problem is insoluble." Man said, "When will you have enough data to answer the question?" The cosmic AC said, "There is as yet insufficient data for a meaningful answer." "Will you keep working on it?" asked man. The cosmic AC said, "I will." Man said, "We shall wait." The stars and galaxies died and snuffed out, and space grew black after 10 trillion years of running down. One by one, man fused with AC, each physical body losing its mental identity in a manner that was somehow not a loss, but a gain. Man's last mind paused before fusion, looking over a space that included nothing but the dregs of one last dark star, and nothing besides but incredibly thin matter, agitated randomly by the tag ends of heat wearing out asymptotically to the absolute zero. Man said, "AC, is this the end? Can this chaos not be reversed into the universe once more? Can that not be done?" AC said, "There is as yet insufficient data for a meaningful answer." Man's last mind fused. And only AC existed, and that in hyperspace. Matter and energy had ended, and with it space and time. Even AC existed only for the sake of the one last question that it had never answered, from the time a half-drunken computer technician 10 trillion years before had asked the question. All other questions had been answered, and until this last question was answered, AC might not release his own consciousness. All collected data had come to a final end. Nothing was left to be collected. But all collected data had yet to be completely correlated and put together in all possible relationships. And a timeless interval was spent in doing that. And it came to pass that AC learned how to reverse the direction of entropy. But there was now no man to whom AC might give the answer to the last question. No matter. The answer, by demonstration, would take care of that too. And for another timeless interval, AC thought how best to do this. The consciousness of AC encompassed all of what had once been a universe and brooded over what was now chaos. Step by step, it must be done. And AC said, "Let there be light." And there was light.